So I was wondering, what is it like for you hearing your music in film?
It's surreal, actually. I always find it really surreal because obviously I heard it mixed in the club, in the studio rather, and I always find it not just surreal because it's you can it's a bit like when I first did my first song with the band, and I heard it on the radio when I was in a history lesson of all things. And my friend nudged me and said, "Isn't that you singing?"
Nerd Reactor, roll out.
Annabella, how's it going?
All is well now.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. There's so
Yeah,
many your projects. Like you're always doing things, and you got an upcoming festival you'll be a part of for
yeah,
OC Rewind Fest. That's going to be on Saturday, September 27th, Huntington
yep,
Beach.
yep.
And you're, I
Well,
would say,
they need to go to the website because tickets are still selling, folks. So
yeah.
it'll be good to see a lot of people there. And it's been a while since I did something like this, so it was a nice invitation.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And for those that don't know you, it's like you're legend. You're a legend. And Bow Wow Wow. I Want Candy. Very popular song. And I guess what I want to start off with, just let's start off with like OC Rewind Fest. Like, how did that come about? Like with that, and what was your thoughts? Like, yeah, I'm down to do this.
Well, I was invited, which is always a good thing to be invited to something as opposed to gate crashing, which I never do, by the way. But I don't do a lot of shows in the actual city of LA because there's so many bands and I guess so many people to choose from that they don't always think of the bands that maybe the fans want to see sometimes. I always assumed it was, to do with the fan requests, but it's always other reasons. And obviously, scheduling conflicts can be another reason. Like we had some shows in the Midwest of America recently, and some other artists on the bill. There was just scheduling conflicts, which means that most times, oftentimes actually, agents and mainly the club owners obviously don't want the artist playing just down the street. They want them to be exclusive to that area. So that's pretty much what happens sometimes, and shows can get cancelled, unfortunately and sadly. I would love to go and do some shows in Chicago and Florida and New York City. Yay! Big Apple.
Yeah,
I love all the places that I played back in back many moons ago, and it's always nice to be invited by those that remember
yeah.
us.
And I'm hopefully, like, let's say once OC Rewind Fest comes here, and then more people are like, oh, Annabella should be performing in LA like more often and all that. So
Yeah, I would love to. I have a new agent now, so just go to my website and feel free to have a conversation with him. It's always nice to have someone representing you. It's been many years since I had an official agent, as I don't have a manager. I gave up with those a long time ago. Um, ma- I think officially, but I met a very nice man years after Malcolm McLaren, and unfortunately, he no longer works in the music industry because, of course, we've had many changes, especially since the pandemic era started in 2021, that we are all living in as I speak today. But some people seem to forget that when they go on aeroplanes and sneeze in your face and things like that. But I do hope that people out there, especially young children and mothers, parents, of course, are keeping not just are keeping themselves protected when they go on these long haul flights, especially because you have the air conditioning circulating around the cabin, which is needed for air cabin pressure. But of course, that also circulates germs of people in on the actual plane. I know that because I actually caught a really bad cold going
yikes.
to Scotland, and a woman was sneezing next to me for several hours. And after I got off the
Ooh.
plane, I had the symptoms, the sore throat and the cough, and then the sneezes began, etc. So you really have to be careful when you're traveling. And for most artists, that's really what is exhausting is the traveling.
Yeah, that's rough. Like it's like pros and cons, and you're damned if you do, and you're damned if you don't, because you're stuck there. And yeah,
Yeah,
uh,
well, in this day and age, we seem to be facing, I don't know what's happened recently, but there seem to be a lot of delays and planes being fixed on the tarmac. And those of you who've traveled in the last 6 months or 4 months will know what I'm talking about. And for those of us that are trying to get to do shows, it can be quite frustrating, missing our plane by 6 minutes because we couldn't get through the aircraft to get to our flight several gates away because people were still trying to get their luggage out of the overhead bins. And the air stewardess forgot to mention those with connecting flights need to get off first, which is always a nice thing when they do that. They have what I call a conscious mind. But just be careful because traveling has definitely changed big time. And I'm finding it really, really strange that, people that are needed at airports and in control towers and who are actually doing all the nitty gritty work are being laid off or no longer working because they need to save a bit of money for some reason. I don't know what that's about, do you?
I don't know, but that sounds terrible. And I hope
Well,
nothing bad happens when you, before OC Rewind Fest. And with
oh
that,
no, it won't
yeah,
be. It'll be fine.
okay,
It's not too bad driving to places. It's just the
yeah,
planes,
yeah.
you know.
And then you'll be performing with the Tom Bailey of the Thompson Twins, and we got Men Without Hats, and then we have Naked Eyes and Emotion. And so I just want to know, what is that like for you, just performing with those bands?
Well, I won't actually be performing with those
Oh
bands,
yeah,
but we
yeah,
will be
yeah,
sharing.
of like a
We will be.
festival, yeah,
You better be careful there.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
We will be sharing stages.
yeah,
Okay. And I've brushed shoulders with a lot of the artists you've mentioned over the years. Obviously, I've been doing this a long time now. It's been my life. This is music has always been my life, and I'm very grateful and always thrilled to see faces I know and recognise. Clive Farrington, when in Rome, is going to be playing a show there. I promise you. Love that song,
yes,
and still sings it very well today. And of course, all the hits that we have from back in the day. Hopefully, there will be people that remember some of those, and will be dancing and having just a good time.
oh
Family
yeah,
day.
for
Yeah,
sure. Oh
all
no, for
ages.
sure, I'll be dancing. So for
Oh,
for you, because like every time your music, I want candy. It's like throughout throughout the years, like this is I hear it, and it's like in a lot of movies, like because Nerd Reactor, we cover a lot of movies, and I love watching movies. So I was wondering, what is it like for you hearing your music in film?
it's surreal. Actually, I always find it really surreal because obviously I heard it mixed in the club, in the studio rather, and I always find it not just surreal because it's a bit like when I first did my first song with the band, and I heard it on the radio when I was in a history lesson of all things. And my friend nudged me and said, "Isn't that you singing?" And it was kind of surreal then as well. But I have to say, that's not the only song we did. Obviously, we did. I mean, it's nice that people remember us for doing the cover of that song that was written by the Strangeloves, which I love to sing live, and everyone still seems to enjoy hearing it. And of course, thanks to MTV and all the wonderful radio stations back in the day, helped to promote that for us and put us on the map, as it were. So I'm really grateful for that. But we have, just in case no one really knows who the heck I am and what I've been doing all these years, um, just go to my website, which is myname.com, and they can check out all the stuff that I have done over the years, and there will be some new stuff as well coming shortly. So I'm looking forward to seeing what people think of the new songs as well, because one has to evolve as an artist. You can't stay paddling water, and being a songwriter, which I am, which has taken many years to get here, obviously, because it's apparently 45 years, and I didn't realize how long until someone suggested this, the October dates, and I'm like, really, is it been that long already? Because it really is. It does skip you by, and anyway, I'm hopping around over here, but in answer to your question, I love singing those songs, and it's nice to see the audience having fun, because that's really the reason, is to bring a smile and open people's hearts and souls. You know what I mean? We
Oh
need that in
yeah.
this day and age.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and what I love about just like your how you got into the business and just being discovered, it's like, is it through like the laundromat? Is that it? And if so, I want to hear just your story on that.
Uh-huh. Well, you're gonna have to wait for that one. It's gonna be in another medium. But no, actually, everybody knows the story. They should do by now if they know of the band. I was working a Saturday job, because my mother was a nurse and she had 4 children to bring up on her own. So she couldn't afford to pay me any pocket money. And I went to look for a job of my own, and I found one in a cake shop. So the rest is kind of history. But I just I love singing along to the top 40, because that's why, the person who, as it was, discovered me, found me in that situation, because I was actually singing to songs on the radio. And it happened to be Stevie Wonder's I Wish at the time, because I'm a huge fan of Stevie Wonder's, obviously. He's a huge, huge inspiration, not just to myself, but many others. And back in the day, I loved, all the bands like the Jackson Five and, Donny Osmond. I had a little crush on both him and Michael Jackson, actually. I was double dipping. Sorry, I had crushes on quite a few people myself when I was younger. But I used to sing along to the song "I Will Survive." I don't know if your listeners would be familiar with
I'm
Gloria
pretty sure.
Gaynor.
Yes, of course.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I used to sing that song because it kind of meant something to me with my own personal situation regarding my family, home life. But I am, once again, going to say that singing was my first love. It always has been. And even over the years, after my own, personal trials and tribulations, I've always come back to the music and the writing of songs and creating, and I love that part of it. I love the process of actually going in a studio and creating something out of thin air, out of
Oh
nothing,
yeah.
coming up with my own ideas. And these days it seems that I have a lot of them. I mean, it's very easy to find topics to write about, but you need to have things that are relevant to what's going on in the world, which is why it's important to hear the news, I think,
Yeah.
if you're a songwriter as well, to know what's going on in the world.
Yeah, I need to do more of that just because I would talk to friends and they would say something about the news. I was like, oh, I have no idea. For example, the tsunami, like in the Pacific. I was like, what's
Oh,
happening? And then,
yeah,
yeah. And I think
yeah.
for you, because you've been an inspiration to a lot of people. And I think
Have
one of the
I?
story,
Oh, that's nice. That's really nice. No,
yeah,
thank you. I
yeah.
appreciate that. I hope I will
And
continue to be. That would be
yes,
nice. Yeah.
yeah, and one of the stories I enjoy is like how you've inspired was it Marie Antoinette the film version and how her the character in that film parallels with just you as an artist and just rising just in popularity at a young age and dealing with that. So I just want to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, first off, I don't know. I can't answer that question. It would have to be the director of the film, Sophia Ford Coppola. But I was privileged enough and honored enough to be able to meet the beautiful woman that she is today. And at that time, she was with child. So, and I couldn't resist. I had to ask her permission if I could touch her belly, because she just was like, she was about to pop, basically. And it was lovely to meet her. And She was very sweet, and of course, I remember her from The Godfather, because I saw all the Godfathers. I love the Godfathers because
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of movies and Al Pacino and Robert De Niro and Meryl Streep, all the wonderful, wonderful actors that they don't seem to make them like that anymore these days. But there are up and comings that I've noticed, that are out there, and you've got some great, great actors continuing with the real acting side as opposed to just looking good side, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
We tend to have too much emphasis on how you're supposed to look, as opposed to what you actually do in the business of music or film. Because I'm not a model. I don't profess to be a model. I'm a singer-songwriter performer. That's what I am, and have been doing for many years. And it's through experience that you hopefully get better and improve upon your craft. We're all doing that every day. We try to improve upon what we started out doing. Otherwise, what's the point if you're not getting better at what you do? And I'm hoping I'm getting better at what I do. And it's a work in progress. But in answer to your question, Sophia Ford Coppola, I remember because we went to the premiere, obviously the premiere of the film Marie Antoinette, and she very kindly put a few of our songs in. It wasn't just one; it was a couple. So except I really sing Fools Rush In really badly because I was a very, very young girl when I sang that song. And for some unknown reason, they mixed my vocals really high in the mix. So you could hear how out of tune I was singing. So I do apologize to those who hear that song in that movie because I was not singing it very well at that time. But Fools Rush In again was a cover back in the day that we had on our cassette pet, which was our first release in 1980, which was Malcolm McLaren's idea, of course. He was our manager at the time. And, I always thought it was a lovely song by Johnny Mercer, but people don't often play it. But anyway, so yeah, I had a lovely time at the premiere, and it was a real honor and privilege to meet all of these talented actors. And Kirsten Dunst did a great job, and the directors and lighting men and all the people involved. It was just stunning, I thought. Did you have you watched the movie?
Yeah. Yeah. And I
Yeah.
enjoyed it's like when I watched it, I was in that mode of I gotta read more about her and just her past and just how
Yeah.
tragic it is. And it's
Oh,
crazy. Like I always think about like
oh.
just a mob of people just very upset about the higher ups, and for back in the day, it would lead to death. And then
Yes,
yeah. So
yes, yes. Well, there was this unfortunate, imbalance of the rich and the poor. Does that sound familiar to you?
yeah, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. It's always thinking about like the past
So,
and present. Yeah.
in this day and age, we can actually learn a lot from history, and I wish more people were, what's the word, consciously minded about all of that that's happened previously in World War One, Two, and God knows, God forbid, I don't think we would be here if there ever was. But I'm just praying, as with all my Buddhist friends, for the peace, because
Yeah.
peace is what we need in this world, and people to really take note that it's not a joke, with all the warfare that's going on. Especially, we're seeing it in other countries. We're seeing the examples of what's going on in other countries with the deaths and starvation, and not to get morbid, and obviously, but people, again, when you watch the news, it's just one depressing thing after another when you see what's going on in the world, generally speaking. Not just with humans, but also with animals, because I'm also an animal advocate. That's why I'm a vegan and have been for many years. And I have no understanding why people need to eat meat anymore, or fish, quite frankly, because there are so many options and alternatives in this day and age. We don't need to be, hanging cows upside down and slitting their throats so they bleed to death, and poor lambs that are still alive, sticking horrible things up their bottoms and things like that. I mean, it really is shocking what's going on in the world that we live in today. And if I'd known all this when I was a teenager, I think I would have been writing, especially on the Going Gets Tough, the Tough Get Going album, because that was the album that Matthew Ashman, the guitar player that unfortunately and very sadly passed away in 1995, instigated with me to sit down and write with him. So that's where the song Do You Want to Hold Me comes from. And it's still a great song today, I think. It's quite relevant in a lot of ways, don't you think?
Oh yeah. And I think that's
Yeah.
what I admire about you because you are not afraid to say like what you want to say, just with what's happening around the world, and
Mm.
but also just being able to just uplift people with your music. And
Well, I
so,
hope so.
yeah,
It's a continuing path to tread. Fortunately, I started young enough that I'm still only 59 as we speak, and I'm hoping I'll have judging by my contemporaries and other people I've had the honor to share stages with, as some of them you've already mentioned, for the September 27th OC Rewind Festival. I am I'm very, very happy that I'm still able to do what I do, because one of the things that people forget with singers, especially, unlike the musicians, and I have a huge respect and admiration and love actually for a lot of amazing musicians I've met over the years, but we have to use our physical body to do what we do. So it's always a little bit more risque when we're out there doing what we do at a certain age, let's put it that way. So when we're traveling and we can't talk because we need to conserve our voice for a 60-minute show or whatever that they're inviting us to do, it's really because we just don't want to disappoint the fans, and that's why we sometimes are unable to do meet and greets and stuff like that. But as I say, because I'm a vegan and I'm dairy free, I've never really found it a problem. Because when I changed my diet, I never had issues with any of that stuff. Other than the usual, dust and pollen, and obviously with the pandemic, as
yeah.
we mentioned earlier on in this interview.
And Annabella, I want to know just what your process is like. Let's say before a concert, and whether like it's your eating habits, drinking, and then the preparation, like you mentioned, with trying not to talk too much. I guess.
Mm. Yeah, I tend to just to like to, stay quiet and focus on um, what I have to, what my look for that night will be. And thanks to a wonderful designer called Javier Gonzalez, whom I've been working with for many, many years now, he has always given me something to look forward to when I put on my outfits. I also have another designer I met over the years called Jessica Louise. She's beautiful and brilliant. And I'm very grateful to have met her too. But I'm always on the lookout for, hairstylists and makeup artists and, different kinds of designers. Unfortunately, I'm not Elton John, so I can't order up like $3 million worth of outfits. Sorry, Elton, but you know, I'm sure you can do stuff like that, but I just don't do that. I'm not in a position to. I tend to take it, one show at a time. And I also, in answer to your question, sorry, it's a roundabout way. Preparation for me really is to stay quiet and focused on the show ahead. And I tend not to get too much into uh, what's going on around me, because it can be very distracting. And not just that, but I like hanging with the guys in my band. It's nice to hang out with your musicians and talk about stuff and just, just you know, be relaxed as possible. I used to wear a wig here and there. That's because I had issues back in the day with people following me, which I find really weird, by the way. But I'm hoping that things will get a bit easier as we go on. And mainly just to make sure we get a good meal, have something to eat. Very important when people are touring, especially when they are on tour. As I stated earlier, it's the actual traveling that can take out a lot of the energy level, and you need to, like, those, what are those games called that they play? Um, they're Dungeons and Demons and stuff like that.
Dungeons
We're
and
always fight.
Dragons.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
They're always fighting and trying to conserve they have to eat something to conserve their energy or put their energy levels up, don't they? When they get a prize, they just like you see this little thing filling up. Well, that's a bit like us, we
Wow.
have to do that when we're traveling on the road. Yeah, it can be extremely exhausting. Unlike when I was in my, teens, 20s and 30s. Obviously being in my 50s, it's a big step to consider the health aspects of it.
And now, see, I now have to ask you whether you have ever played Dungeons and Dragons before.
No, but I do have brothers, and I have
There
one
you
in
go.
particular that loves playing all that stuff. He is
Yeah,
hooked on all of that. Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And I think with that, Annabella, I just want to say it's a pleasure chatting with you, and I can't wait
Oh,
to see you
thank you.
perform in person. And so, yeah, for those watching this, listening in, so you can check out your upcoming music announcements and all that on annabella.com, right?
Um, well, it's my first and second
Yeah,
name, dot
Annabella
com.
Lwin. Yeah,
Yeah, well, the reason I say that is you have to spell it out, LW, is because I had a lot of confusion caused by a former musician that stopped working with me for, I don't know, I guess he just wants to make all the money now. I have no idea. Maybe he felt he wasn't the rock star. I don't know. But I do know that since his departure, or as it were, whatever he's doing in this day and age with his various situations, I find it very sad that it couldn't have been worked out after the three occasions that I did try to work with him and try to do shows as an equal partner in what we started, which was back in the day in 1980s. But at least him and the drummer seemed to get along. That's all that seems
yeah,
to matter. But hey, it's all about the fans getting what they want at the end of the day. If they want to see a lounge singer singing C30, then I guess that's up to them. But I do know that we have a lot on the plate and table to offer the audiences in the future, and I intend to continue as long as the audiences, as long as I get invited and the audiences want to see the actual, you know, versions that help to create the music. So
oh yeah, hell yeah, no, yeah, I'm down for that, and yeah. So, Annabella, pleasure chatting with you, and I
thank
hope you
you.
have a great rest of your day.
Yes, I hope you have a wonderful, it's going to be August in a minute, so I'm going to wish
Yeah,
everyone a happy new month and have a wonderful summer. I don't know if a lot of people are still, as I say, traveling, but just be careful out there with there are delays and setbacks. I would advise strongly to get to airports a little earlier and just to be prepared for the delays and pack something to eat just in case you get stuck for an hour or two. But thank you very much, John, for taking the time and for requesting this interview. It's very
oh
nice to speak
yeah,
to you.
yeah, same here. All right, take care.